Um,
Face does. Have control for a lot of times.
A guy now, a listing, and he's insisting on, he has to wait until after the election before he can list. Because what the heck's her name? Calamela is offering all the new home buyers all this money. I said, yeah, it's probably not
If
going
you
to.
listen to it, it's first generation, so the first people to the country. It's not for. At least what I think I hear. I don't know, but here's a fun fact for you. People are just now paying off their $8,000 taxpayer credit that they had to start paying back in 2010 from 2008. They had to pay $500 a month. 2025 will be the last year. Nothing's free.
Nothing.
That's what I keep telling people, like,
Yeah, I agree.
even if you're a vet and you're paying that funding fee, you're paying it for 30 years. Like, they're not losing. Okay.
Exactly. Nothing's free. Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? I'm Mindy. Good.
Good. Up to your cellar. Good.
I got
And- I have to go to React today though. Didn't go yesterday. I've got like 8 levels of. So I have to come here again, so we're good.
Eight levels of what?
What's going on?
Yeah.
It's not a perfect presentation because there's a few things I couldn't figure out how to do.
Prior to the room. Or
Yeah.
how he's sprinkling his stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Standard old school. With like old school rules.
I can like be here an hour.
I'm just gonna do the spicy cool new stuff. You need like bar stools up here, you know, like
Yeah.
chairs are too low.
I want to figure out how to get a whiteboard up here. I might have to get somebody to do something in the back if you could. So you can like label it.
Okay.
You could just get that like whiteboard paint the whole wall.
It's these dumb beans.
They make them whiteboard vinyl stuff that you can put on there. We used to have it at the old office on
Eastern Boulevard.
Eastern Boulevard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think bar stools need a couple like,
Panel
Bar stores need.
yeah,
Yeah.
with like little backs.
Yeah. You could do that. We used to have those sketchy ones that were, you know, I think,
Yeah, those were like, every
Yeah,
time you
maybe,
sit on
yeah.
them, you're like, hold the table.
yeah.
And then the tables, the tables like, are like.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't remember.
Bob just started then, right? Oh, you've been doing it, Bob? 5 years?
I'm in my 4th year now.
4th year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's Square.
I saw on LinkedIn that I had my 4th anniversary here. Like, wow.
Yeah, I remember doing your CD in a little room there. What? Is that the moldy one?
It's like we get close to.
Good. Feel like that patient. That patient took a lot out of you. You wouldn't get started.
Yeah, I got, I was like, okay, these holes.
I have 2 more pills to take.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure we'll have some more people coming in. I want to thank Tina and Jeremy for taking the time. We did that poll on Facebook, I guess it was about a month ago. This was one of the classes that was highly voted, the other one coming up next week, which will be going over the FAR forms. So I thought they both will give a nice little twist to listing presentations for those that have been doing it for a little bit, maybe you want to refresh, give a different perspective. And then those that are just now starting, this will give you some good key points to take away. So we're gonna start with Tina, and then I think Jeremy's gonna come in, he'll do his part. Yes, ma'am.
Kristen just said the Zoom link is wrong in the calendar the office sent out, so I don't know where the correct one is.
Okay.
Can I tell her?
I don't know where the correct one is.
Okay, sorry.
In the calendar,
That's
can
what
she
she said.
go into? I'll have Julie change it.
Okay,
I was gonna see if it's in, can she go into the Facebook group and try that one maybe?
okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm glad you said something because there might be other ones struggling. I'll go get that fixed, but, other than that, give it.
All right.
Thank you, Tina.
Carol did ask questions, be gentle, a brand new computer, and so they swore at Best Buy that they transferred everything from my old girl to my new one. So if I accidentally touch some of them, I'm gonna try not to
Same
swear. All right. Things happening. Here we go. All right, so before we can talk about listings, I'm gonna just do a 2 seconds on where do we get our listings is our leads. So feel free to scream, jump in anytime. I got these stats off NAR, so you know, if they're not right, you can blame them. But according to buyers, 38% of buyers use an agent referred by family or friends. And 12% use an agent they've already worked with before. Sellers, 46% use the same agent to buy, then to sell, and 81% only called one agent to list their home. That means people are really super lazy. So if you can get in there and be the agent they talk to, you got an 81% chance that they're just gonna be like, you know what, we're going with you. So that's the important one. And then 65% of sellers ask for a referral from friends, family, coworkers. So the number one thing is to see if you can get in there. Some people, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, have a preference if they're the first listing agent in or if they're the last listing agent in. But I say just make sure you are. Good morning. Come on in. On the first slide, so you haven't missed anything. All right, so shout out where your leads come from. These are a few places that I was thinking of: referrals, direct mail farming, websites, Keller Williams stuff, social media, open houses, events, volunteering. Linda's good at volunteering in the community, agent referrals, past clients, family, friends. Can you guys think of any other places where you are getting your leads from for your listings?
Expireds.
Expires.
Other signs? I don't know, signs.
Yep, yep, call-ins. Anything else you can think of? Good places to get info from people who want to list, grocery store lines. I got one of my good listings years and years ago. From Starbucks.
Grocery store, yeah.
Yeah, I was standing in line and kind of ragging on York because I was still pretty new, and the girl lady in front of me was like, yeah, and we had a conversation and kept selling our house. So after you have that first name, you have somebody you're going to talk to. How do you start the conversation with them? Belinda, how do you, like that first, you've got, okay, you got a name, you got Tina Urente. What do you do then?
I call and ask, it depends how I met them.
Cause I'll probably refer to something that she said at that conversation or how I got their name, or if I don't know and they just got my name, then I ask. May I ask how you found my name and why you chose me?
That's always good for tracking, to kind of see back, and then make sure you thank the person that
Mhm.
gave your name away. So right away, before you do anything, if they list, if they don't list, that doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to thank the behavior of the person that gave you the referral. So whether you send them a Starbucks gift card, whether if you know them, you'll know if they're a Dunkin' person or a Starbucks person. Or if you want to send them a bouquet of flowers or, some edible arrangements or something, but you want to thank that behavior because that's what you want to create. It doesn't matter the outcome in that portion of it. You want to create them being a constant supply to think real estate and your name and then say, oh, Tina. And so you just want to keep sending them cool stuff, whatever they like. If they like barbecue stuff, send them barbecue.
I have a fun story on that one. I just have a plan, so you don't have to think about it. When you
Right.
get a referral, you have a plan. So I always send chocolates and balloons or whatever, especially if it's in a workplace. So it got delivered and everybody's like, who is that from? And then she got to say, my realtor, like, do you have a card? Do you have a card? And so I sold 2 other houses just because I sent a referral into an office area.
Mhm. Yep.
So think outside that box.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something big. It can be, something small, but that makes a big impact. So always thank them, always ask how you got my name. Tell me about your house. Start taking notes, okay? They might say, the basement flooded last year. They might just slip and say something else that could be really important in the conversation later. Oh, this was my wife's closet. Or you just never know what other things you're gonna pick up, so take notes while you're on the phone. By what date do you wanna be in your new home and out of your current one? Those are important questions to know, because if they're looking for something after the election, is that gonna be the 6th of November, or are they talking like January? Cause that will help you kind of guide your conversation as to how fast you go and not. Are you interviewing other agents? That's an important one. And like we said earlier, where am I falling? Am I the first agent you're talking to? Am I the second one you're talking to? Am I the last one? Where do you like to fall in that if people are interviewing multiple agents?
That's a tough question because I go in and I just do me. And I do ask if they've been interviewing. But it's more important for me that if I don't get it, that I get a follow-up with them to find out what. That to me is what's most important. So I just focus on what I do. And I don't know, it's if you go in first, then you're the first one and then they compare you to everybody else that they interview. And so you don't get the opportunity to come back and make any changes, to what you were going to do. So, I think it's tough to be the first one, but I have not necessarily always been the first one and not gotten it. So, and I think it goes back to when I do the follow-up and they give me good information, I think it goes back to, well, you were really great too. We just went with the first one that we interviewed, which is what, 80?
81%,
Yeah.
83%,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah.
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 So that's a hard one to answer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Everybody kind of has their own perspective on that. And then are all decision makers going to be present when we schedule our appointment? Because there's nothing worse than going out, spilling your guts, spending 2 hours at somebody's kitchen table. And then they're like, okay, well, my husband is currently, on a work trip and, he can't, you have to come back later. Or I'll pass this information on to my wife. Bingo tonight. Oh my God, you're only gonna do that once and then you'll be like, okay, next time, note to self, make sure you ask, is everybody gonna be there? first-time sellers are just as bad as first-time home buyers in the sense that they don't trust themselves, so they might want their parents there. They might want a neighbor there, so just make sure you know if everybody's there. And then one that I always like to ask is, what did you like about your house when you bought it? Because whatever that is probably what the next person is gonna like. Does it have a super big backyard? Does it have an in-ground pool? Does it have skylights in the sunroom? Those things don't change typically, so that's usually the best thing. You know, if you're in a neighborhood with a lot of kids, the bus stops right in front of your house, so you can stay in your jammies and watch Johnny go out the door, you know, like. Yeah. When I pull up to a house and I'm like, you know, I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be the thing they say. And then when I ask my mom, sometimes I'm like, I never said that, because who the hell cares about X, you know? But whatever is important to them, also remember to see if you can figure out how to get a sentence into the comment section in the MLS. So if they say that their favorite part of this house and the thing they're gonna leave behind, and it's gonna hurt them and they're gonna feel so sad about is the gazebo, you better be putting that gazebo in the MLS. Because that's the most important thing to them. May not sell the house, whatever, but that was the important thing to them that they pointed out to you for their importance. So make sure you reiterate that at some point in your marketing somewhere, have a special picture of it, tell the photographer, make sure you get lots of pictures of the gazebo inside and out, because that's going to be important to them for you to make that connection. So pre-listing packet or not, who does a pre-listing packet? Does anybody do one of those? No, I don't. I think maybe Aaron might do one. I don't know. I never have sent a pre-listing package out in advance or couriered it over or dropped it off the night before, but I do prep a whole bunch of stuff that I put in a folder. No surprise, lots of paper. And I do take it with me to the appointment. And we go over some of that in the first appointment. I do a two-step listing appointment. I'm old school. That's how I was taught. It was like pre-computer stuff. So you had no idea from the tax records, if it says 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, if you go into the house and they finished the entire basement, now they have 5 bathrooms, or they added a pool. Like, you couldn't tell that stuff from the tax records, and there was no other real place to get that information. So you do this whole CMA, some people would, and they go out and you're like, oh crap, it's no longer a 5 bedroom. They turned that into a workspace. Now it's a 2 bedroom with a giant walk-in closet. All that time and energy you spent is away down the toilet. So I don't do a 1-step, and like, I always do a 2-step. So my first appointment is, you know, hey, we're gonna set the appointment. I'm gonna come out Thursday at 7, and don't clean your closets. Don't pick up from the kids. I'm not taking any pictures. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure the rooms. I'm gonna take notes to see, like, do you have carpet? Do you have vinyl, linoleum? Like, what does the house look like? You're also not telling them, but you're smelling the house. Does it smell like cat pee? You know, does it need some major work for the condition? Those are the kind of informational things you're doing, at least I'm doing on my first appointment. So I do a little mini CMA just to kind of get a sense of like where I expect it should be, and cruise the neighborhood if you can before your appointment, just to kind of see, is the neighborhood kind of running down? Is it very well maintained? Does everybody mow their grass? Has the snow been shoveled, or the hedges trimmed? Because that'll kind of give you a little bit more of an idea too, in terms of what you're walking into. Double check the tax records. If it's been on the market recently, look into that and see, so you kind of know, okay, there are 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, finished basement, just in your head, so you know like how much time to spend. Look up the house on Zillow and Redfin. Doesn't mean you need to go buy it. It's probably going to be wrong, but they definitely have looked at Redfin and Zillow.
Mhm.
So you better know what they think the value is worth. They may think their house is worth X because it says so on Zillow. So don't be sitting at the kitchen table and be blindsided when you did all this great research and you think their house should be listed in this range and they're thinking over here because Zillow said that. So I don't talk about price on the first appointment, but definitely know when you walk in, that's the first thing they're gonna ask you. Hi, how are you? How much is my house worth? Well, I don't know. Get the house first. So just have that in mind, that they're gonna think that their house is worth whatever they see on Zillow.
You know, on the pre-listing thing, I hardly ever do them. I've done them twice, only because I knew I was fourth or fifth.
Right.
And I sent a pre-listing and they were all of them were luxury homes. Those two were luxury. And I just have I just have a line that I say when I drop them off, and I've won both of them because of this line. But I go there because I want to be first. No, I'm not first. So I drop the pre-listing packet off and say, whomever you choose, just make sure they know how to present your house like it's the finest jewelry store in town and not Walmart. And I won both of them because of that sentence right there. So I don't like doing a pre-listing, I don't, but I'll take my listing book that I have made and drop it off with that line. And just for that reason, they have something to think about when they're sitting before the other 3 or 4, whatever it is.
Yep, exactly.
So I don't want to say I never do, I don't like to do them, but in that case I will, and it was
I've
worth
done it
every.
a handful of times in 20 years, but I don't. But yeah, if you know for sure you're in competition, if you're out in Brittany or, Wyndham or something like that, I do.
That's the one of them I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was in Brittany.
Yeah, because they're gonna expect additional service. So at the first listing appointment, when you go, be on time. In York County, 5 minutes early is on time. On time is late. So doesn't matter if you have to sit around the block, in your car for 15, 20 minutes because there was no traffic, be on time. Walk up to the door exactly on time. Don't park in their driveway. Because goodness knows if somebody who is home happens to be like my husband and their car drips one little drop of slush onto their driveway or drip of oil or something, not only are you not getting the listing, it's gonna be ugly. So don't park in their driveway. Park on the front of the street. Don't walk on the grass. I know it sounds silly, but Gladys Kravitz is watching. So those of you who are older know who that is. Just assume from the moment you put into the neighborhood that somebody's watching you. So don't speed, don't go too fast over the speed bumps, stop at all the stop signs. Somebody is watching you. They're either sitting at the next door neighbor's house, they're pushing a stroller down the street. Just don't walk on their yard. That's what sidewalks are for. And even if it takes you 3 extra seconds, sorry, my allergies are killing me. Got stuff in my throat. So when you walk in and introduce yourself the first time, ask them if they want you to take your shoes off. And I know that seems kind of silly, but a lot of people don't wear shoes in their house. It doesn't really mean that there's a cultural or religious reason, but always ask. So I know that's sometimes a little trickier for guys than it is for ladies. But ladies, in the summer, when you're wearing sandals, just think about it, and I know it's nasty sometimes to put on pantyhose, but think about your feet when you getting ready to go to a listing, because you don't want to stick to their floor if you're in bare feet.
I just take socks.
That's right. In my case, I have, those socks that have the bottoms on them. I take
I
those.
carry
Yep.
mine too.
Yep, the little yoga socks with the grippies, those are good. Also, if you have shoe covers in your car, stick those in your bag and then, pull them out and just be prepared. You don't have to put them on, but be like, is it okay if I walk in my shoes, or would you like me to put these on? And just start putting them on, and they'll either be like, oh, no, or they'll just be quiet. You're like, okay, so note yourself. I may need to bring a booty bag for when we list the house. So tuck that away as you're walking so that later you can say, oh, yes, and I will put up a little sign, we'll have everybody, we'll recommend people wear booties in your house. You just never know what's gonna be their trigger. So definitely ask. And then if they're like, oh, no, you can park in the driveway, oh, no, don't worry about your shoes. Well, then when you come back the second time, you're good, but on the first time, make sure you're like following the rules. Ask if you can have a tour of their property. Some people like to do this alone. I like them to come with me because they could show me things that I couldn't see, like, oh, we had this whole wall rewired with surround sound. Well, I didn't see that. Or, when the hot water heater broke, we did blah, blah, blah. So don't take forever because you're only gonna be there like 20 minutes. Like promise them this is an in and an out. So that's what I do. Like, we're gonna be in, I'm gonna measure the rooms. And unfortunately, usually whatever I'm wearing doesn't have pockets because when that's cleans, it's pockets. So the first tour I do with them, I'm taking notes. Okay, there's carpet, there's a stain. This room needs some paint, blah, blah, blah. I'm just writing notes to myself. But then when I go back through the second time is when I take my measurements because I can't hold what I'm writing with and my tape measure and all of that stuff at the same time. So that's when I know extra things. And then ask them, what's gonna matter most to them when we list your home? Is it the time frame? Do you need to be out before your grandbaby's born down in North Carolina? Do you want the most money? And you don't have to say it like that, but you'll just be able to figure it out. Like, so, what's your time frame? And they're like, eh. Or they'll be like, eh. Then you'll really get a sense of, okay, well, it's not timing then. When you walk in, if all the boxes are stacked in the dining room, they're ready to rock and roll. Some people won't call you until they think their house is like pristine and ready. Other people call you a year and a half in advance and want you to tell them that they need new carpet, they need this, they need that, they need to repaint. So you'll be able to tell when you get in where to fall. While you're walking the house and you're making your notes about the property, just casually say, do you know what your current balance is on your mortgage? Write that down, because that way when you do your estimated closing cost sheet, you'll have a pretty good idea. If they're like, I don't know, I have no idea. Really? Well, then I'll need that by the time I come back for my second appointment. Or you can text that to me, or, well, you can always go look that up while I finish measuring. So you can kind of read the room on that one too, but definitely before you leave, you want to have a ballpark idea of what is the balance on their mortgage. And I find that if you do it while you're walking, it's not so confrontational. You've been in this house for 20 fucking years. And, like you owe 4 times the original value. Like, what? And don't assume that the balance is paid off if they're 800 years old and they've owned the house for 50 years. Because sometimes you're going to think, oh my gosh, it's slam dunk because they don't have a mortgage. Surprise. You never know. You just never know. So, but that's always easiest to do.
Real quick, we have on a mortgage, HELOCs and stuff,
Right.
like that have no balance on them. I've gotten into some pickles or closing.
Right.
They don't realize they're even moving.
Right, exactly. In the last few years, or during the financial crisis, did you happen to take out any?
Or if there's a deceased partner, they may not have known. So it's always such a disorder people.
Right, exactly, for sure. Yes, ma'am.
I had a hard one time where when we got the settlement, they had forgotten they had a prepayment penalty. And it came up and they actually owed money. Boy, was we in the hot seat. Thank God they got a hold of their parents. They gave them that money because their parents was on a cruise. But we were really in the hot seat because the people buying their house was sitting outside their house in a camper ready to come in.
Oh, it's always the way it is. Yeah, and it's 200 degrees outside and they got a cat and a carrier sitting on the front porch.
Yep, that prepayment penalty, I'll never forget it.
Exactly.
I asked it now.
Yep, and just write as many notes down as you can, and then you want to start peppering in things about the current market, just to kind of give them little food for thought for your next appointment. So, what improvements have you made? What maintenance have you done? Those are two different things. You know, like, did you just repaint? Or did you gut the house, rewire it, put in all new plumbing, all new subflooring? Now, those are different things. When's the last time you sold a home? If they've been in that house for 25, 35 years, you might as well treat them as a brand new baby client, because what they used to know and what is going on today are two totally different things. What went well? What didn't go so well? Even if it's been 30 years, they will remember the bad stuff. So note that and make sure you don't do it. Or at least you can try to make sure you don't do it. What are you looking for in an agent? Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. I have a seller intake form that I fill out while we're talking, you know, that has all sorts of questions on it, you know. So I fill that out also while we're walking to the mortgage payoff. Then I sit down with them when I come back, and I have this whole packet, has consumer notice in it, the listing paperwork, the seller's disclosure. I explain the closing cost sheet to them. We don't put real numbers in, but I explain what all the lines are so that they understand the title cost sheet. You know, I bring one of those pamphlets and I say, you know, this has set statewide, these are the fees in Pennsylvania. Just try to be as factual as possible, so that you're not hiding anything from them, so that they feel like you're a team. Your partners in this, and just giving them the information. I also give them a blank agreement of sale. I write the word sample in highlighter on every page. Because you know, those could change between when we list the house and when they have a buyer. But I don't like my sellers the very first time they see an agreement of sale to be the offer. Because you just don't know. I mean, in this market now, they might get multiple offers, they can kind of compare them a little bit. But back in the day when, you know, your house is on the market 60, 90, 125 days, you know, they're waiting and they're waiting. When they get that first and only maybe offer, it's like, holy. If they've already looked at the seller's, at the buyer's contract, and they're kind of familiar with it, it reduces a lot of their anxiety. Because then they'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that, you know, on page whatever, they, you know, might take my ceiling light fixtures. You know, yeah, we talked about that. But, you know, by seeing it there, it's just an additional piece of information, and a lot of agents won't give them that. So that kind of goes back to your knowledge base. You have more information that you're providing them. I also put a little information about myself, but I don't really like dwell on that. Really good eye contact. Make sure you shake their hand if they're of that generation. Take notes. And for me, this hurts. You can get this. Don't roll my eyes. That was hard for me. Can't tell you how many times in school I stood in the corner when I didn't even say anything. Because I had that look in my face. And I can't even tell when I did most of the time. So, you know, mirror what they're doing. If they're hustling you out the door, go. If they're like, oh, do you want to stay for a cup of tea? No, I can't. But, you know, next time. So then you go back and you do your homework. That's when you like really drill down, figure out the range. And I make it a really narrow range. And when I come back the second time, you hopefully already have some kind of, a rapport established. One of the first things I ask is glass of water. And we make a little joke, yeah, our realtors are always thirsty, hungry, or we have to use the ladies' room, because that's pretty much our lives, because we live in our cars. But it gives the seller a sense of being a host or a hostess in their home, instead of being intimidated that someone is gonna come in and critique their property and like pick it apart. And it just kind of sets the tone. And then sometimes they'll have like a little plate of cookies out and they'll offer you, you know, want some coffee or something. Other times it's like, oh, didn't think about that. But by the time they come back with that glass of water and sit it down at the kitchen table, you can tell the temperature's changed a little bit in the room. Plus, it's always a really good opportunity. If you are vomiting at the mouth and they're not interacting with you, grab that glass and take a sip. And just wait. That's it. And just wait. Wait them out. And sooner or later, they'll spill it. And either the husband or the wife, one of them will give the other a look. So and it's just easiest I've found for me personally, is if you're holding a glass of water or a cup of tea or something, just keep taking tiny sips and just keep watching them and don't say a word. They invited you to their home for a reason. And if you're quiet and you just sit there, they'll tell you what they want. So that's a little trick I was taught and I've always done it and it really works. Some people want to sit in the living room. I still ask for a glass of water, even if you can tell they're the kind of people that don't take beverages into their living room. And then you can discuss your value proposition. You know, I work with sellers who want to attain the highest dollar amount possible for their home. Then you can talk about how you price things. And I know Jeremy's going to go over that a little bit yet, but don't give away your knowledge for free until they have signed the listing for you. Well, should we replace this carpet? What do you think about this paint? Do we have to redo this? You know, you can give them a little information, but until they've signed up with you, don't give all of your knowledge away for free. So you've done all this research, where do the houses really work? And then they're gonna do FSBO. After that initial appointment, I always have sent them, if I'm able to get their email, I send them a link to Seller's Shield with the little thank you and say, you know, thank you so much for letting me pop in yesterday. You know, as I'm working on all of your numbers and pulling everything together, you can complete this and it'll be ready for when we meet tomorrow at 8 o'clock or whatever. They tend to really like that. Because it gives them some homework, something to do. And in that packet that I leave with them, I have already printed out a hard copy of the seller's disclosure. And I just basically say, you know, this is Pennsylvania form, this is legal document. Doesn't matter if you go with me or if you're going to go with another realtor, or even if you list it by yourself, you need to have one of these filled out. So here's a copy. And if you want to be like sneaky, you can write on it again with a marker or something, sample, because then they're like, they can't use it. Mhm.
So what is your response when, because you don't want to give it away for free, if they were to say, so what do you think my house is worth? And you don't want to, how do you respond?
I just kind of ignore the question.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's coming.
yeah, that's when you take a drink of water.
Okay,
Yeah, I just don't answer.
okay.
I always reference Zillow, like I always look that up before we get there, like Zillow says this, however, I need to go back and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So you can still give them a number they probably already saw, but you're not saying, I see Zillow says this, however, I'm gonna.
And then, Zillow is not typically accurate in our area.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I like to educate them about the process, here's the consumer notice, here's the agreement of sale. Once we get an offer, this is what it's gonna be, this is the seller's disclosure. And I found that just by sending them a thank you email and connecting them on Seller's Shield, you can find out, like 2 hours later, if you get the little ding, you can go into Seller's Shield, oh my God, they filled it out. Means they're gonna list with you, whoa, like, they've already filled it out. So then you're like, oh good, I got this one.
What is Seller's Shield? I never heard of that.
It's fantastic. It is essentially the seller's disclosure online.
Oh, okay.
So it is a free benefit through RAYAC. And it is wonderful. It's like TurboTax, but for the seller's disclosure.
Okay.
And it prompts them to the next question, the next question, the next question. And you know how there are those lines that say, if yes, please answer, and then no one ever fills it
Mhm,
out? Well, since this is like
Yeah.
auto-generated, they can't go to the next question until they have explained why they checked yes. Has the basement flooded? Yes. Well, then explain, they have to type something in there. And what's nice about it is that you can stop and you can go back. So like if a wife starts it or if a husband starts it and then they need to check, or it's really good for elderly folks when they can't read their handwriting anymore. They're like, is that an 8 or a 3? Like you just can't read it anymore, or they're having like a kid in another state help them. You can put people on the email as well, so they may not be an owner, but they can help like look over the paperwork, and it gets all that liability off you.
Okay.
And everything is like easily typed, it's seen, it's great, and it's a free service. If they want to purchase additional coverage for like liability or, lying on the seller's disclosure, that's up to them. But I always type, this is free, and I capitalize the word free. However, if you choose to buy from the third party from Seller's Shield additional coverage, protecting you and your home for the next, I think it's 3 years or something like that, you can do that. Because I think isn't it the seller's disclosure, they can go back on you for 6 years, 5 years, something like that.
I think it's 6.
It's something like that. So you could be gone in another state, somebody can come back and chew on the hiney for that one. But, so that's something I like to do. And I just explain, staging, photos, like the whole process, because they probably don't really know how that works. Why they may choose to hire me, why they may not choose to hire me. I may not like you and your home, and I may not want your listing. And so that's always a surprise too, for them, that I get a chance to say no. So that sometimes puts them on notice too, that they have to behave. Tell them that stuff always happens. Stuff always happens. You just never know where it is and what it's going to be in this transaction. There is no perfect transaction. So I always kind of compare it to going on an airplane flight, where the stewardess says, buckle up your seatbelt because we're going to hit some turbulence. We're going to hit turbulence at some point in the transaction, but as long as you prep them for it, they're usually a little easier to deal with when the situation happens. So we're a team in this deal. Like, I am working with you and you and I are together. We're not adversaries. Like, it's us against the world. So you need to continually remind them that I am trying to get you the highest dollar possible for the condition your home is currently in. Unless you want to do X, Y, and Z, then we might be able to list it for this. And that's when we go over the objections. Does it need new carpet? It's the cat. Are we going to give a carpet allowance, or would you prefer to call Weckers or somebody and we'll put that listing off until you get new carpet in there? Is that something you have the funds to do? if they say, can we start our house a little higher so we can leave ourselves a little negotiating room? How do you deal with that? Be prepared because they're always gonna say that. I tend to list a little low and let the market bring it up versus list a little high and let the market drop it down.
Chase the market.
That's the.
Ahead of.
Ahead of the market. Be ahead of it and not chase it.
It just makes you more of a hero. You can sometimes tell them, you know, so in your head, you're like, okay, I'm gonna list it here, but I'm thinking it's gonna sell here. Rather than list it here and let it drop back down, because the market's gonna be what the market is gonna be. Like, the public will only pay what that property is worth. So you can list it for $1 million, but if it's, you know, a $50,000, well, I think we have $50,000 marbles in
How do you?
Yes,
how do you
Yeah,
navigate
47, I
a
could sell it for
You navigate a conversation with somebody who said, well, agent that I had before said, oh, listed for 10, 20 grand more.
Can I see what comps they use? Because these are the comps that we're going over. We all have access to the MLS, and then don't use the initials MLS. Because they don't know what that is. Is that like GPS or is that like miles per gallon or like, they don't know. So, you know, if you have to explain, it's the general computer database, like use whatever terminology you have to. Can I see, did they leave you any documentation? And then make sure you know your comps. And when they say, oh, I wouldn't have included this house because this is a Cape. A Cape Cod, and explain what it is totally different than a ranch house. And then, you know, you deviate and explain, if your buyer's gonna get a mortgage, there's gonna be an appraiser. And an appraiser is the eyeballs for the bank. And then, and they're gonna compare like to like, apples to apples. And then that's, you know, usually how I can say, okay, well, the style is different, or this is in Northwestern School District, and we're talking about Southeastern School District. And you go back to the mortgage and the bank and the appraiser and say, this is the criteria they're gonna use. We should use the same criteria. And that's usually how I do it.
Yeah, and I was wanted to have you share that with everybody else. And another part I take, there's a graph in the CMA that you can do in Bright that shows it's the importance of price. And it shows the timing, always take that.
Yeah.
How long was on the market, you mean, for the prices?
Yeah, because your price is gonna go down,
Yeah.
and be negotiated harder.
Something that I do too that I have found helpful so that they're not mad at me for pointing things out. I say, I'm gonna put my buyer face on.
Yep.
And I want you to put your therapy hat on. And we're gonna go through the house with my buyer face and your therapy hat so that you have your shield. And they go, okay. And then I go through it with them and I say, this is what a buyer sees.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I had a sale not too long ago, was a very expensive home, but the roof was almost done. And the sellers wanted, you know, to get a lot more money. And I said, your roof is gonna cost $50,000. It's a big house. It's just gonna cost $50,000. And that buyer's agent is gonna be telling them all about that because they have the seller's disclosure. So to your point, let's go in a little lower. So we went in a little lower and I told them your expectations are you sell at asking price or you get a bump up. And we ended up selling at asking price because I said to them with absolute confidence, we don't go down from here. We've already come down.
Right.
And they were great with that.
Yep, you just have to be super upfront in the beginning. Like, no surprises, no tricks. No, if we're gonna hit turbulence, we're gonna hit turbulence.
It said, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're kind of dancing around like the decision of what to do, like, then they're gonna start second guessing.
Exactly. And if they don't wanna put a roof on, great, well, then we have to compensate somewhere, because people kind of like a roof that doesn't leak. It's just the way the market is, you know, it's kind of like, do you need to put in a new well or septic? Well, people like to flush. Sorry, that's not an upgrade. That's.
Yeah, that's just-
maintenance. Sorry that you didn't spend that 20 grand. Should have, but gotta do it.
Well,
So,
another line that I will use is, we sell houses different than we live in them. You can live with it and be happy with it, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna get you top dollar because of that. So we have to look at it like a buyer's coming through, so we have to prepare your house for a listing, not just to live in it.
Right.
So when I walk through your house, I'm going to be preparing you to list this house. It's not critiquing you, it's getting you ready to get top dollar. And but when you prepare them, it's much easier.
yeah, yep. And you don't wanna over stress the negative, but you don't wanna, you know, tiptoe around it either. So what do you guys say when they say, will you cut your commission?
This
Mindy?
conversation goes easier, I think, now that we have the newer. Cause now I presented more, this is my fee, are you choosing to offer? Cause before, it was like, oh, it's 5 or 6 and they see a big number, and now it's like, well, my fee is not negotiable, here it is. And you're giving them the power about the buyer side. So I don't see this as much now, but before it was awkward. But I feel better, I was newer, I'm 6 years in now, I felt awkward and I felt like I did sometimes cut it to get the listing before, never below. Never below 2.5, you always told me it was a race to the bottom, like essentially. 2.5 really became acceptable.
Really?
That was because we were doing this.
See, and I think, you'll be able to talk about this more, but I kind of do what Belinda does. Do you want Nordstrom's or do you want Kmart?
Right,
Yeah, I just say it like straight.
That's
like
what I
that.
do.
You have to be more at peace with,
Well done.
when you start out, you're like.
And it's like, you know what?
Is that what you say? Do you say that?
I do.
What do you say?
Stop.
I do.
I see her saying that.
Yes.
What do you say?
I don't say that. I
What
don't
do
get
you
it.
say?
I don't get it.
Well, no, I
But also-
may not even get asked, but I'm giving you that information because I'm better than everybody else in this room.
But I,
And then,
Yeah,
Wow.
I
but
absolutely.
that's how I get all my Brittany.
but see, I'm falling short. I've been doing what Ryan's talking about. I've had a mental block. But I haven't had anybody say that to me. Do you see what I'm saying?
Me too. My
And
time
just
is
do the
now.
takeaway, do the takeaway, you know what? Yeah. My time is too valuable.
There's
Yeah,
always
work for-
discount stores.
There's always, you know, and then I keep
not just-
reading, you know, the Nordstrom's Kmart. And if you don't want that, that's perfectly fine. I understand. Not everybody, and it's, you know, maybe it's not for you. Start picking up your prep and like, and you'll get a sense if they're like, wait, you know, can we look, okay, well, how about we put that away for just a second? Let's continue with the rest of the listing. And I do the rest of the listing. I have them initial every page. We go over every paragraph. I have them sign the listing. But the value of the house is empty still.
Yes,
I set that paperwork over here, like everything is done except for the price. And then we talk about the seller's disclosure. I ask for a key to the house. I need some more water. It's always a good one because you have that glass of water, they go back and
Maybe
get the water. There's something you do too. You know, if you're feeling like the husband, wife are getting a little with each other because one of them is like, let's just sign this damn thing and get it over with. We got, you know, like, we got to deal with this. The listing is done, except for the price. That's when you say, I don't use the facilities in a seller's house, but you always can be like, oh, sorry, but I have to make a quick phone call. I promised a client that I would call them and then whatever the hell time it is, just say, you know, can I just step out? I just have to check on an inspector, an appraiser, whatever. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Because if you can tell they're getting like this, you just step out on the front porch, make a phone call, talk to yourself for a second, hang up, come back in. You're all happy. So whoever won, you're gonna know. If you're packing your stuff and you're leaving, or if you got the listing. Let's get the listing.
Tina, a long time ago, do you remember Tom at the Pendergrass and his dollar bill thing? When that he would haul a dollar bill from his wallet and explain why financially that is worth he is worth it at 7%. So basically what he would do is fold the dollar bill and say, so much of the dollar bill goes to the seller, so much goes to the buyer rep. And he'd say, well, but I also have to pay for insurance.
And
Yep.
Plus I also have to do this. And then at the very end, I have only this much left. I'm not making a profit. And I'm in business to make a profit, as are you.
And,
Bam, that worked for me every single.
and I still have to go to Petco and buy dog food.
Mhm.
So, you know, when you get your paycheck every Friday or every other Friday, do you see, you know, you got this big number on your check, and then down here is what you get, you know, all that stuff on the other side, your FICA, your taxes. I have to pay all of that myself quarterly. So Uncle Sam, the state, the township, the county, the borough, the municipality, you know, plus I have to pay this, plus I have, you know, plus don't forget, you are not out of pocket anything until we close. So I'm paying for all your photography, and we're gonna do a drone on your house. And, you know, we're gonna have your house cleaned. I'm paying for your house cleaner. I'm doing this to, you know. At the end of the day, what's left is what I get to go to Petco with. So, you know. And then they just. Yeah, check, there you go. Yeah, because, you know, that's what I care about. So, yeah, they don't want me, don't hire me. It's not working.
It happens.
You're the mouse, yeah. Go to the right.
All right, so that's how I handle those objections. Most people won't know anything about the whole DOJ or stuff, but you have to discuss it if they bring it up. We talked about the comps. And if, yes, ma'am.
You have a 60-second elevator snapshot in our settlement.
Sort of, it includes a lot of eye rolling. You know, there's 1.5 million realtors. We're all independent agents, just like hairdressers or barbers. And unfortunately, you can't get 1.5 million people to agree on anything. And there were a couple of crazy people in Missouri that probably weren't doing their job and probably shouldn't have been realtors. And that's how we ended up where we're at. And so now we're all penalized, and here we go. Like I just kind of, well.
Kev said it the best, last time, was like, what is your understanding of the NAR settlement? Or may I ask, what is your understanding of the NAR settlement? And I'll be happy to answer those concerns for you. And then that way you're not like guessing.
Regurgitating.
Yeah, like you're basically, if you're explaining it without asking them, you're explaining it in your term.
Right.
Which is, for us, negative.
Right.
Like, we don't agree with, I think, any of it, but we have to.
Like I told you, if you would have been watching the morning show and heard what the experts on TV said this was all about.
That was terrible.
I sat my car was getting fixed, and I sat there. And I'm looking around and everybody's listening to this, I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Well, the guy behind the counter knows I'm a realtor, and he said, Linda, is any of that true? I'm like, they only told you half the story. There's another whole part of it, but then I got to hand my card out to everybody in that waiting room because of that, but so we don't know where they're coming from, because the information given out there was not all the truth.
Exactly. It's like, if we would have been all doing our jobs, doesn't affect us.
Well, in PA though, you guys had buyer agency.
Yeah.
So we have really not changed anything.
18 states out of the 50 have had buyer agency. So 18 states, none of us really have changed. It's those other states that are changing to have buyer agency. We've had buyer agency in Pennsylvania since 25, 26, 27, 28, long time, years. So, yeah. Then sometimes people come up with the team versus solo objective, you know, like you're a solo agent, can you watch me and baby me and handle me. Other people are like, oh my gosh, you know, you're a big team. Do you have time for me? So I go over that if they need it. Sure, Jeremy has time. We talked about interest rates, fall, historical data. Just make sure you know what's going on. Elections, historically, York County will start to slow down as if it's Christmas. So like, it'll just continue to die between now and election day. Like slowly, everything will stop because they're very fiscally conservative in this area. So just be prepared for it. Once you secure the listing, if you need to walk away, you need to walk away. Like, if they're being a pain in your hiney,
It doesn't get better.
it doesn't get better. You're gonna know it,
Mhm.
and no commission is going to be worth it.
Because they're the one that will turn you in for something stupid. And
They will, and
6 months trying to play your name.
yeah, yes,
It took me 6 months. to
Spoken
figure
like
it
a-
out. I'm not kidding.
yeah.
If you dealt with so real.
Oh, yeah.
That's years ago too.
Well, it's just long enough, you know, you sit there and you're like, you know what?
For some, so dumb.
I need the money, I need the money, I need the money, I've gotta pay X, Y, and Z. I need this listing more than you need to sell your house to, you know, I need it, I need this. And you're like, every bell in your head is like, don't take it, don't take it. And you're like, yeah, I'll take your listing. And then you pay for it, and if you want. Okay.
I'll buy.
Yeah,
I love
Yeah.
everybody's stories.
yeah, because it gets.
It's a good learning.
It does get them.
They are great.
Yeah.
We could do writing mastermind.
Hear the whole. Be recorded and it up to them, you want to be in person.
James, make sure you schedule a night out. I'll show up.
It's supposed to be a night in, you can't.
In.
You can't be at any other tables,
Okay.
we're hearing what we're saying because staff.
Has anybody seen those like candy fruit salads on TikTok where like you talk about your trauma and you dump in your candy? Has anybody's? That's amazing. How dare you? We could do it with like real estate versions of like.
Like you make a snack mix.
And then like you line up and everybody says their trauma and dumps in their candy.
They're silly, like me, who doesn't maybe do as much business as, it's nice to hear like someone like you is facing this kind of bullshit, so I'm like, okay, it's not only me, like, it makes me feel better.
You need to be in an office. to hear this stuff, because, you know,
Yeah, is.
Yeah, we're not ladies.
Yeah, it can get ugly fast.
We
Did you
might
remember
be
that we are not to deliberately mislead the owner as to market value? And I couldn't get rid of that stupid little graphy thing, so just about that. But just remember, we can't mislead people on the value of their home. So, run your business like a business. Wash, rinse, repeat. So there you go. All yours.
Jeremy, you're up.
So that's the traditional
Yeah.
version. I don't know how he does it. Yay, Julie. Yay. Oh, you're welcome. Good job. Yeah, good job. I know power.
Still spry.
Good day.
Call them back.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where it says the.
Slide the. Yeah, get that. Big slide. There we go.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Julie, you're on.
Oh,
So, to do this, I didn't really know what he wanted me to go over, but I was just gonna do like a listing presentation or. Come in and talk about this, because I've had some people ask me about the tier commission structure, how that works, what that looks like, how do I present it? So instead of coming in and doing a listing presentation, I decided I'm just gonna talk about that. You guys okay with that? I'm like really excited. I love talking about this stuff. I'm like a nerd when it comes. Most of you guys know me already. If anyone doesn't, Jeremy, been in business for 6 years. I was ranked rookie of the year with 27 transactions in the first year as a part-time agent. I'll also add to that, I didn't have a driver's license either. So
That's a good start.
yeah, so part-time driver's license, 27 transactions, 2 years in 2020, I started the Jeremy Poly Group, had 3 agents with me. And we focus obsessively on sales process, the words that we use, the psychology behind that, and psychology behind the process that we use. You're gonna see that today. What I'm going over, whoops. Introduction, what is the tiered commission structure? Why should we use it? How to create one, how to present it. And then I'll open it up to Q&A at the end. How many of you guys were at Joe's value class? How many of you guys have either since then created or tweaked a value proposition? That I'm gonna like piggyback off that because a lot of this has to do with the value proposition. Okay. What is a tiered commission structure? Does anybody already use one?
I did one in Wisconsin. I haven't used it here.
You use one?
I've been working on implementing it. It's like, yeah, everyone like actually commit to it.
Okay. Why should we use one? Anybody know?
It gives them choice, them
Mhm.
power,
Yeah.
makes them feel like they're making.
It's an option. Most
I feel
people,
like when you go to buy a car, they give you 3 options, 0 down, 5 grand down, 10 grand down. You always feel like you have to take one, right?
you gotta pick the best, yeah.
Like streaming services.
How many of you guys do the exact same listing presentation every single time? No matter who you're meeting with, it's the same presentation every time. Can we agree that not all sellers are the same?
That's right, absolutely.
Can we agree that if not all sellers are the same, that the sellers' situations are different? If the sellers' situations are different, the solution needed could be different, right? So if we can agree on all that, what benefit is it to the consumer if us as agents are still offering a one solution fits all? 2 years into real estate, I signed up for coaching. And I was like super excited for my coaching calls. The first one, I thought I was gonna learn like all these sales tactics, like marketing techniques that nobody knew about. And I got on the call and it wasn't that. He got on the call, we did our introduction, talked about my goals. And then at the end of the call, he gave me this. And he said, when we meet next week, I want you to have your mission statement, your vision statement, your core values, and a unique selling proposition. And it was then I decided I didn't like my coach. And I wanted a new one. I didn't realize at the time what he was doing. He was setting me up for this. He was setting me up how to build more value into my presentation so that I could ask for more money. Okay. Let's talk about how to create one. This is an example of what we use. Well, we don't use this exact one anymore. We can refine it, but before we talk about like what's included in each one, ignore all of this. Just look at 4, 6, 7. Why do you guys think I chose 4, 6, 7? Because this was very strategically put together. Why do you guys think I did 4, 6, 7? Why not 5, 6, 7?
Because 4 was probably what was going on around there when you did it. The lowest one out there.
Okay. Why else?
Are you trying to make a gap between 4 and 6 to make it seem large, but then the gap between 6 and 7 is small?
Mhm,
It's unique, it stands out.
mhm. What does this 4% option look like?
Nothing.
It's a
Nothing.
write-up, it's a yard sign, it's a lockbox, it's pretty much it. What kind of service does that sound like?
The
Walmart.
average,
Bottom.
the
Yeah,
average.
Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart.
That's like the flat rate MLS. Okay, $500, we don't have millions. Yeah, that's what that sounds like. I don't actually wanna do this though, so why do I have to fret?
Give them an option.
I already know they don't want that. If they're taking 2 hours out of their day to meet with me on a school night when their kids are getting ready to go to bed and go to school the next day. They wouldn't be meeting with me if they wanted that option, right? 6%, what does that look like? That's like what most traditional full service agents are gonna offer. Okay, 7% is where your value proposition is gonna go. Right? Anything that you come up with that can add value, you're gonna put it in that 7% option. By the way, guys, when you do your seller net sheet, you go over that at your listing presentation. Fill that seller net sheet out with 7%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why in a little bit.
You have the color of the middle one, is that like a psychological visit visual?
So I didn't create this. I gave them the information in case somebody were to do it.
Yeah,
Actually, the reason we don't use this one, if you look closely, I think there's errors on this one. But no, I think they did that because it's labeled as the most popular. But when I show you guys how I present this, you'll see how I use those, like these labels to kind of funnel them over to 7%. When I was learning about marketing, one thing that really stuck out is when you're talking about pricing, there's only 2 advantages to pricing. Does anyone know what they are? You're either the lowest or the highest. Everything in between, you're just like everybody else, right? If you're the lowest, there's always going to be somebody else trying to get underneath you. It's a race to the bottom. If you're the highest, people are going to try to find value. Have you guys ever gone shopping and you find 2 things, they're like really similar. You can't even tell what the difference is, but one is more expensive. And you ask yourself, well, what's different about that one? Why is that one more expensive? Some would argue that
The girl versus boy prices.
someone argued that some buyers would buy that more expensive one just out of FOMO.
Right.
They feel like they're gonna miss out on something.
It's a
Or
branding.
somebody would buy it just because they feel they have to have the best. And they attribute the best to being the most expensive,
Mhm.
right? So when we're talking about pricing, you want to be lowest or the highest, but doing it this way, guess what? You have both advantage points. You're offering both the lowest and the highest. So if we want to ask for more money, we want to ask for 7%. Shouldn't we be solving more problems than your average agent? And if the clients don't all have the same problems, shouldn't our listing presentation be a little bit different depending on who we're presenting to? Okay. So what do we put in that 7%? Sellers do we? List some.
Estates.
Estates, what else?
downsizing.
Downsizing or
Downsizing.
upsizing.
That's our first.
Okay.
I'll get it.
Senior citizens?
Yeah.
Investors?
Mhm.
What else? Couples getting divorced?
First time home buyers.
They're selling.
Oh, sorry.
Eventually.
Someone that inherited a house. Maybe. All these different types of sellers have very different situations, very different problems to solve. So if we know what kind of sellers they are, what kind of problems or what kind of headaches can we take away from them? What kind of programs can we create that we can offer in that 7% option that's going to get them to see the value in that 7% option? The example I'm gonna show you today is, we have the Move for Free program. That can apply to almost anybody, right? What else? How about, Ken, you said you offer cleaning, like a deep clean before it goes on the market, right? What about your seller that has a bunch of deferred maintenance and they just don't have the money to fix it? What if you offered a repair credit program? So that they know that, hey, if you choose that 7% option, you have X amount of money to allocate towards those inspection repairs. Or maybe a couple that's getting divorced, you could offer them hotel credits. So that if they need to get out of the house and stay somewhere else, you can go to a hotel. How many of you guys work with investors? What about an investor that doesn't live around here, that's selling their house, that's not under management? And you offered a pre-sale property management program where you handled any lawn maintenance, snow removal, weekly check-ins on the property. I have a client right now, he's out in Arizona and I have a house on the market, and I got to make sure the lawn is mowed. I got to make sure the lights are off. I got to make sure the air isn't too high or the heat isn't too high. Like, these are all things that are going to make these sellers' headaches go away. They're going to see value in these things because nobody else is offering it. No other agent's going in and talking about this. Every other agent is going in and talking about, hey, this is the marketing plan I'm going to use. I'm going to get your house sold, right? That's not really solving their problems. That's not eliminating their headaches. They're going to see value in these things, right? So when you create these programs, what you want to do is you want to create just like a little one-pager, right? And it's just going to be outlining the terms of the program. Okay, and I'm going to show you an example of one and show you how I present it. But when you have that one-pager that's going through the terms and you show that to them during your presentation, all that is doing is showing them the terms of the program and that they qualify for it. Okay. So I can't stress the importance of, now I do a one-step listing appointment, Tina does too. So Tina's first listing appointment, where she gathers all that information, I do that on the phone before I even set the appointment. I want to learn as much about them as possible. Because if I don't know anything about their current situation, I want to know what problems I can solve. With my team, when we do call recordings and we review those call recordings, I ask them 4 questions. What's the current situation? What problems are we trying to solve? What's their timeline? And what happens next? We can't answer those 4 questions. It wasn't a productive call, and then we train around it. So I can't stress the importance of really diving in deep on that phone call, really uncovering what problems you can solve for this client. If you have that information, you can know exactly how you want to tailor your presentation to be able to ask for more money. Okay. So we've had that conversation. We know what problems we can solve. We have a program that we can offer them. Now, how do we present it? I have a agreement. The very first thing I have them sign. So how many times have you gone in to a listing appointment and you go to start signing and they say that they're not comfortable signing or they don't want to sign yet, right? I get past that with this. This is our easy out agreement. It basically says that if they ever change their mind or they decide that they don't like me anymore, they can get out of the contract, as long as there's not an agreement to sale on their property. This breaks that barrier of them not wanting to sign. And
How many times have people?
I can
used it?
probably count twice that anybody has ever exercised this, and that's for everyone on the entire team, not just me.
I do one of those also.
Mhm. It gives them the peace of mind in signing. It gets them in that habit, right? Because you're about to go through like a stack of papers this thick of signing,
Yeah.
right? This gives them the peace of mind be able to start signing. Then right after this, I'm gonna give them something. Now I'm gonna tell them about the Move for Free program. Hey, by the way, did you know that we offer this Move for Free program? And because your home is above 150,000, you actually qualify for this program, and this is how it works. Okay? I encourage you guys, if you're gonna do something like this, have an attorney write it up for you, make sure it's legal.
But that comes in your 7% commission.
They don't know that yet, though.
Okay.
So I've given them the peace of mind around signing, then I give them something for free. They're happy about this. They didn't know that they were getting this, but because I had a good conversation and I know that this is something that they don't want to have to do, and I'm offering it to them for free, naturally they get excited about it, right? And then after this, you're gonna go through any other documents, right? Your consumer notice, the Bright disclosure, the 2024 policy changes, and then right before the listing agreement, we bring this up. And then I present it just like this. I say, listen, we have 3 different options. The first one is by far the least popular because it's the most work for you. All I'm gonna do is put sign in the yard, a lockbox on the door, put it on the MLS, all the syndication websites like Realtor, Zillow, Trulia, and the rest is up to you. Our 6% option is what most traditional full service agents are gonna come in and offer. Okay? The full marketing package, overseeing showings, inspections, appraisals, coordinating closing. And then the 7% option, which is quickly becoming our most popular, gives you everything in the 6%, but that's where you get the Move for Free program. Why do I do that? I've given them the document. They got excited about it. So they've already decided they want that, right? They've already decided that they want that Move for Free program. And I'll also go and say, by the way, that seller net sheet that we went over, I already factored in that 7% for that net sheet. So the 7% is what you want, and that bottom line is something you're comfortable with. Those two are already in line with each other. I'll tell you more times than not, we're picking the 7%. Can you guys see how that works? All of these documents, by the way, Julie has. You guys want copies? That document that they again, that is nothing more saying that they qualify for it. Not saying they're getting it. It's outlining the terms, letting them know they qualify for it. They can get it until they agree to that 7%. Why else do you guys think this tiered commission structure works? It's no longer a yes or no question.
Right.
It's no longer, hey, this is what I can do for you. Do you want to work with me? Yes or no? It's,
People love
hey,
options.
these are all the different options that I offer. Which one of these feels like it's the right fit for you? It gives them the option and they get to pick.
The other thing, when commission comes up, it gives you the ability to say, well, we've got a whole discussion on that coming, and it actually could be your choice. You can say that at the beginning and it sets you up for already winning.
I had a phone call over the weekend. The guy calls me, very first question. Hey, I just got your number off Google. I was thinking about selling my house myself, but I'm calling around the agents just to see what kind of commissions they offer. You charge. So that's a great question. And if that's important to you, that's important to me too. And that's one of the first things that we'll talk about when we meet, but I don't believe in a one service fits all. So we actually have several different options. You get to choose how much you want to pay to get your home sold based on what level of service you want.
Great, great.
Guess what? I have that appointment tomorrow.
And you'll probably get 7.
I'll probably get 7. While there's so many agents out there struggling just to get 6. Give me 5. Now, there's nothing wrong with 5, guys. I do 5% too. For my investors that bring me multiple deals a year, I give them 5 all day. But for the average consumer that calls me to go over to their house, this is what they get.
And don't forget, 20 years ago, that's what everybody was charging. Absolutely.
Now, how do you tie in with the settlement or people asking you that?
That's why
I think you're always giving 3%.
It's no negotiation. It's
No,
Wouldn't
we
allow you. Just wouldn't allow you to bring a listing in if it was not 7.
Huh.
Which is why we're where we are. But, you know. Well,
Because guess what? You're gonna spend some money to execute that.
Yeah.
So when you're creating these programs, you have to make sure that the extra money that you're getting is able to pay for whatever you're. So for example, like the Move for Free program is bad. I know that most moves are gonna cost anywhere from $800 to $1,500. Right?
Really?
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
State it cost me that much.
It depends on where they're moving and how much they're moving, right? And there's a lot of variables, right? Like if they have specialty items like safes or pianos, obviously it's gonna be more. Which is why I created this here, because then it keeps my money protected, right? So you have to have a house that's worth above 150,000 to qualify for the program. If I'm getting an additional 1%, I'm automatically getting at least $1,500 more than I would, which is gonna cover the most expensive move. In the event the move is more expensive, they still get more. So 150 to 250, they get $1,000. 250 to 350, they get 1,500. 350 and up, they get 2,000. And I explained to them, look, as long as you're not on one of these, this is what you're gonna get. In most cases, it's gonna cover the entire move. In the event that it doesn't, you would only be responsible for the difference. I've never had anybody give me that. Because they didn't expect this. They're just glad that this is being offered to them in the first place. And I'll tell you right now, I've never had a seller sit down and do the math and say,
I
oh,
was just
well,
gonna,
you're gonna give me $1,500, but you give me 10% extra, so you're gonna get an extra $3,000. I've never had that happen.
7, like besides the three, there's more in the 7 versus the 6.
And guys, when you're having that phone call and you learn about their situation and you know what problems to solve, you can have this with whatever program you created, right? You can offer 2 or 3 different ones. Whatever you feel is gonna be the best fit. I use this one as an example just because it's easy.
I don't know if you thought about this, but when I see this is how my brain works. I like seeing that you're still giving 3% to a buyer agent, and in me as a client, I'm gonna be like, wow, his reputation matters. He cares about how he's working with. Like, I think that is valued too.
I will never have a listing that's less than 2.5. If it's from investors, it'll be 2.5. If it's a consumer, it's gonna be 3% every single time.
So with this, Jeremy, do you ever get kickback from agents that call you and say, hey, I wanted half, or it's not? I've got that here in PA, I never had it before, but I've actually had what agents say, hey, you only gave me 2.5 and you took 3.5 or 4, whatever it was. Why are you doing that? I'm like, because I'm worth that. I said, but, and I also said, if you wanted 3, then you should have asked your buyer for the other part of that.
And the other agent doesn't know.
They don't know.
What is doing? Exactly, but that's why I asked, because I just thought it was so bold of an agent to call me and ask me that. I'm like, yes.
So real quick, I'll just go over it real quick one more time. That initial call, you're about to set the appointment. Cannot stress the importance of learning as much as possible.
Ringwood Road,
Um,
Church Road. Sorry, I thought I had my sound off.
Train. Times. When you're having that conversation, it's so important to draw on. And I'll be honest, a lot of us don't even know how to do that. For the longest time, when I was on the phone, somebody said that they wanted to buy a house because they wanted to get rid of the stairs. You just automatically think that, oh, steps are the problem. Right? How many of you guys would agree?
Yeah.
No. Steps aren't the problem, that's the situation. What are those steps impacting them? Why is that important to them? Maybe they had a hip replacement, maybe they're getting ready to do surgery, maybe they fell down the stairs, maybe they hurt themselves. That's the problem. How the situation is impacting them. So when we're having a conversation, we really want to dive deep into that current situation. That's how you go 3 levels deep, right? I want to get rid of the stairs. Why is that important to you? Well, my wife just had a hip replacement. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? Well, she can't go up and down the steps and she's sleeping on the couch. Wow, how long can that go on for?
Years.
Now, we have some ammunition to be able to put together a program that's gonna appeal to them. Right? Once we have that, we're gonna customize the tier structure with whatever programs we created. Once we customize that, we're gonna present it to them. Let them know what program they qualify for. Right? And then we're gonna review the 3 different tiers and let them. After we show them to them, we're gonna ask them which one feels like it makes no sense. Does anyone know why I'm using the word feels? Why am I saying, which one do you think makes no sense to you?
All decisions are based on a feeling or emotion somewhere.
So the entire time through our presentation, we're using words that are gonna keep them in an emotional state. We don't want them to think logically. We want to keep them in an emotional state because that's when we make decisions, right?
Jimmy, the other thing I found is I reversed that, like, I usually sell most of my listings because of this. You listen and you listen to stories, and stories will always hit somebody's emotions and sell a house. So you use it on both sides. I can use it with buyers and you can help solve problems with the seller.
I went through that pretty quick. What questions do you guys have?
I think I'm super dumb, but how do you throw this money around? Is it something you do, it's give credits at settlement for, or do you just do business expenses and take your income? Like, how do you, with these programs?
So.
The moving
I'm not-
credit, Zach, you said the moving credit,
Every program. For. Attorney is saying, is this legal and can we draw something?
See if somebody.
I don't encourage you to try to do it. Keep it legal, let the attorney draw up those little 1-pagers before you go through the terms with them. And then you should have 6, 7 different 1-pager programs that you have ready to present. So whenever you're on that phone and you're that, you know, okay, this person, this is.
How are you expensing that?
What do you mean?
So you relax is moving the bigger person, they charge $1,500, you're paying for it, right?
Yeah, that's one of the questions.
the money in back in their pocket. Do you do it at closing? How do you do that?
So, yeah, I do it at closing.
You do it on the PUD.
Yeah.
You pay for your account over here.
And if you want to be really split, you can talk to whatever lenders you're working with and get them on board with the program. Okay, instead of having a marketing agreement, you can get them on board with some of the programs. Andrew and I are working on a way to get him to offset some of those expenses for the moving program. The more I can offset. So talk with an attorney to get the documents drafted and then talk to your lenders to see how they can contribute.
That's my question, like, is it a one-stop like process for you in the transaction, or are you dealing with expenses and stuff later?
Checks.
Yeah.
So sometimes companies will let you just
You gotta do the.
duck it right off the HUD. And some will be a little bit more pickier.
So you know who to work with.
Jeremy's. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions? Is this helpful?
I have one. Yeah, we have all different kind of sellers. What if you go in and someone's really hurting? Like they're almost short sale situation and they say they want the 4% one.
I mean, if you're offering it and they want it, I mean, you're gonna have to take it. You can't tell them no.
Yeah, we
But,
can. Okay.
you know, I'll tell you this. I've never had anybody. Pay. I've been doing it. I've been offering it for 4 years now and I've never had anybody.
The presentation.
And to go back to what Danny said, you'll notice 4% and 6%, there's a 2-point difference. 6% to 7%, there's only a 1-point difference, and they want within that 7%. That I already know they don't want the 4%, so they're stuck between 6 and 7. They really want what's in 7.
And it costs them what, $3,000, $5,000?
Nobody's ever negotiated, why don't, can I get the 7 for the city?
It takes away all the negotiation because it's there.
That's-
This is what
what
it
I-
is. Which one do you want? there's no negotiating, and it takes away like the talk about NAR, like, this is what I offer, which one do you want? If none of these work, I'm not the best fit.
Well, and mentally, it's what we see online for every pricing thing, like
Mhm.
what package do you want, A, B, or C?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's no swapping terms, it's A, B, or C.
You, because when people ask you, what are you gonna offer me? We all sit there and we're like, I'll do this. You're like, it's right here.
And I think it makes you look more professional.
100% prepared.
Yes, prepared
Like a
and
business.
the expert.
I mean, you can't expect the exact same presentation, the exact same solution to work for every seller. Because like you mentioned, like we said earlier, every seller is different, every situation is different, every problem is different. If all of that is true, how can we provide the same solution every time?
I think this was such a great mix.
This is.
Between what came up and, yeah.
I said, I'm extremely, guys, thank you. Thank you.
Julie has them.
And that right there is what I love, like, he's willing to take something he's created, he's done all the work for. And
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah. My office is in the corner. If you guys ever have questions, need help.
Pictures in case you want them. Profile.
So I have a question for a comment. Would anybody be interested in here, Jeremy? This will have to, if we did a mastermind around creating this as a group, just talking about, would anybody be interested in that? Coming to one? Because if we did, I would do one.
Would you?
Great.
And then if we had questions, could we come and knock on your door?
I have an open door, guys. Anytime you guys need help with anything, I hold no secrets back. I think there's enough business out there for everybody.
Yes.
Come knock on my door. Like, it's not, I hold no secrets back.
This is kind of for maybe both of you guys or the whole room. Going into my first November through January slowdown and cold period. What have you guys done kind of to the room? What have you done to generate business in the quote unquote slow time period?
We haven't had a traditional slowdown market for the last few years, but
Yeah.
they're projecting this year could be our first in a long time.
Read the book shift.
Yeah.
That's gonna be your best book, right?
But I think belly to belly, face to face, lunch with clients, coffee, do a lot of coffees.
Gonna have to do a lot. I really like-
Personal touches.
I have to probably make.
I got the.
Like, if you're used to making 10 to get one, you're gonna probably have to do 20 to get one. That's just gonna how it be. So this is where the hardworking agents are gonna thrive through this and make all the money, make most of the money. And we'll start to see a little bit of a shift in roster and rate memberships.
So I got an idea for you all, because this is how I found my first deal when I moved here, because I didn't know Solo. Was I went and got on a poll booth or polls to work the polls for election, and we're in an election year. I met so many people because they walked up to
That is
my.
right, your rally.
It is, and I talked to everybody, I got addresses, we exchanged, recipes, and I went to their house and gave them my recipe, that's it. Yeah,
Let's get these guys.
I pick up people at the dog park.
Yeah. absolutely.
My turn, Tina.
You don't think you put your name down on it, and hand it to her owner.
See, I didn't do that. See, I put mine, I mean. The bill.
I need them, you always.
But I always keep business cards of my phone, just in case.
I would go prepared, man. I'm always prepared, even if I'm in a grocery store, I'm always talking to somebody.
I had a young guy come from the gas company, just checking on the meter. And he's like, well, we're probably gonna have to